This is my take on India development versus AI development and how things are kind of changing. So, in up to last year, doing development in India looked like this. You would have typically a senior person and trying to compare that to a mid level person in India. And in my experience, maybe yours is different, but in my experience, typically I could get things done as a senior developer about four times faster than somebody in India. Usually, it's really hard to have a senior person in India. It's very easy to have a junior or a mid. But typically, when you get to like a senior person, that type of person typically wants to get out of development and start to be a manager. So it's very easy to lose a senior person, hard to retain them for a long time, and you end up with people that are more mid tier. And they just take longer to do things. I don't know why it is, but that's been my experience in it. So, in order to make that happen, you would have to write down all the details and then send that to them, and then they could do it. If the details weren't clear, then they would either come back with more questions or they would just do it wrong and you have to do it over. And the amount of time that that would take to go back and forth is over a number of days. It would be very rare for me to have a task where I just wrote it all down, gave it to somebody in India, and it came back perfect. So you're always looking at like at least 2 days to have something done, like done. So when you look at like the math, it would typically be like, okay, if you could pay like even $100 an hour, I think is low for a senior person in the US. But you could typically get like a mid person, no problem, for $25 an hour, maybe even less. I'm not sure. But you end up with probably the same output. So if you had to get the project done, you could probably have four people in India do it and one, or you could have one person in the US do it. As long as you don't care when it gets done, the amount of man hours put into it what might be the same. And this is where it's kind of debatable. It's always been like this argument of is it really cheaper or not? Because you kind of still had to have people that are in the US writing down all of these requirements. And then you have the people in India do it. And it's sometimes you could argue it hasn't been cost effective to do it in India at all. But you could say, well, there's a larger pool of people that you could hire in India. It might be easier to find people in India than it is in the US. I think it's always been a close call of whether or not it's actually affordable. But now I think things are changing. So what it looks like with all these AI tools in the US right now, you can have a senior person using AI tools and it takes probably a quarter of the time to get things done that it used to. And this is like new, like as of just a few months ago. The AI tools they're accelerating. So what would have taken me like 4 hours in the past to get something done is now taking like an hour. And that's pretty consistent too. That's been my experience. So, but I still have to have all the detailed requirements written down. And what I find myself doing is now writing those in comments and code and then having the AI just fill it in. So instead of having to wait like a day to get that feedback, I'm now getting the instant feedback. So it's still an iterative process. It's just that I don't have to wait days to do it. I just get like the instant feedback. And then I can tell the AI, no, you did that wrong. And now change it in this way. So now I'm looking at if I have a senior person in the US doing the work at $100 an hour, they're really outputting $400 worth of value every hour. It's not like they're just only working 1 hour instead of four. But I guess that is another option too. So instead of working like one full-time job, you could have that same person working multiple part-time jobs. Or you could flip it the other way around as an employer. You could say, I don't need a senior person for 40 hours anymore. And that I really only need them like 10 hours a week now. And then that might make it easier to find people. I'm not quite sure. But from an employee point of view, working on four projects, having four 10-hour projects that you're consistently working on, you're gaining a lot of more experience working on all these other projects at the same time. You could look at it that way. You could look at it as if one project were to end, you still have three other projects, and so you don't have as much risk about not having income. I'm not quite sure how it's going to end up, but right now, I don't think it makes any sense to outsource work to India because of the lower rates until they solve the problem of tightening up the feedback loop and providing more output. I think that we're going to see this big shift of the work now should just be done in the US, and having offshore teams, I don't think makes sense. But that's my take on it. I don't know. What do you think?